municipalities and school districts actually fund lobbyists to go down to Austin. Now, it may sound all well and good, but the fact of the matter is, for those of us who are conservative, generally, and I could even probably use bigger words than that, you know, it's not just generally, it's probably 99% of the time, these lobbyists are lobbying for more government. So your tax dollars that you're paying to your city or school or county could be going to lobbyists who are going down and lobbying for things that are in direct conflict with you. So I have no problem, and plus, here's the deal, we are all elected to do this job. It isn't that hard to pick up the phone and call, you know, if a mayor calls me or a school district calls me or vice versa, we're going to pick up the phone and call each other. You'll hear a lot of, we don't have time to do all of that down in Austin. Don't get fooled by that. Don't get fooled by that. Plus, there's a lot of groups that actually put out information about the bills that give to cities, municipalities, and school districts. They used to be that way, these associations. They would just say, okay, this is how this is going to affect you. But what has happened over time is these associations have developed lobbying arms. And so then they're getting paid, and they're like, okay, now we got to do something, and let's try to push for this, and let's try to push for that. And I'd rather you have your tax dollars than it be going down to Austin to try to get something that that is in direct conflict with you passed. For instance, I like to use this a lot. For Arlington had, and most of us hate red light cameras. I hate red light cameras. Most people hate red light cameras. And Arlington had citizens go out and get names. You know, they had to put it on the ballot to get rid of these red light cameras. Well, I will tell you, down in Austin, lobbyists were in our office trying to push red light cameras. So you see, that should not exist. So anyway, it was I just decided that I didn't want to see taxpayer-funded lobbyists in my office. Because what I want to do is, I want us to get back to, I mean, as you all know, everything that's added in government adds more government, you know, and it's just a perpetual. And so I want us to get back to talking to each other. We don't need to make it more complicated than it is. And so I, you know, refuse to see them. And just to kind of give you an idea, $29 million will be spent in 2015, according to the Texas Ethics Commission. Up to $1.3 million will be spent on taxpayer-funded lobbying in SD 10 this year. So, you know, I tried to get legislation. We authored legislation for this. It didn't go anywhere. Representative Matt Shaheen in the House side did too. It didn't go anywhere. We'll come back in the next session and try to get something done with that. I keep looking at my notes instead of looking at the slides. Sorry. Transportation. Okay. So SJR 5 was passed. It dedicates revenue from general sales and motor vehicle sales and use taxes. This is what, you know, I campaigned on this and was very happy to see that this got passed. You know, one of the things I wanted to do was use the motor vehicle sales tax, dedicate it to roads, transportation, infrastructure, and, you know, was hearing kind of even on the campaign trail that this was very much you know, the Democrats and Republicans all kind of were moving toward this, thought it was a good idea. And so we did get this passed down in Austin. I will tell you there is a huge, huge push down there to quit the toll, you know, we want your dollars, you know, with those of us, particularly us new guys that have gone in, and I try to explain this to people that are kind of leery of us, fiscal conservatives. We're not fiscal conservatives. It's not that we don't want to spend money, although we want it spent on what it's supposed to be spent on, right? You know, we want it going to the core functions of state government. Roads is a core function of state government. And it's very frustrating to you and me and everybody that, you know, we're paying our taxes, the state of Texas is supposed to be providing roads, and we can't seem to, you know, then we get told, and, you know, we say we need more money for roads, and, you know, what we need to do in Austin is dedicate these funds to what the state of Texas is supposed to be doing, so that, and stop doing all this other stuff that I'll get into, that we shouldn't be doing. So, we are really, really pushing for dedicating funds to roads, not to toll, those kinds of things. So let's see, HB 2612 requires TxDOT to compile a report on debt owed by tolling entities and opportunities for reductions or elimination of tolls on roads where state has investment. Oh yes, okay, so mass transit. This is something that's aggravating to me. Your question earlier about the 10th Amendment, something that I've talked about a lot down there, and a reason why sometimes I vote against something, because it's so aggravating. It's so aggravating. The legislators down there will say, oh, it's not our money, it's funded by the federal government. It's a grant from the federal government. Well, guys, we all know that everything from the federal government, yes, it's our money, but it comes back to us with such strings attached that we can't be a sovereign state, right? I mean, it goes against everything that we're supposed to be. So, for instance, the cameras for police officers, Senator West actually was on board with this, and I was like, yes, I'm all on board. It helps the police officers, it helps the people that are getting arrested. It's a win-win situation. He goes, and I said, well, let's talk about funding of it. He goes, oh, we've got a federal grant, that'll fund it. It's like, I just backed off right then. It's like, no, I'm tired of Texas not being able to spend the money the way that Texas sees best. So anyway, that's got me on. Sorry about that. Go back, Lee, real quick. Sorry. So the local governments are skirting the state legislature. So why I kind of went into that diatribe, because this is happening a lot for the light and commuter rail. Rail right now, we've got Tex Rail in Tarrant County. I don't know how many of you all are aware of this, but it's a great example of how the local governments are going around state legislature and saying, oh, we've got this grant from the federal government. It never really funds it all. It just funds part of it. And for some reason, they want that money. And then we're on the hook for the rest of the time because, of course, ongoing, for whatever, particularly rail. So this is very aggravating to me. It's something that I'm very aware of. I am a huge 10th Amendment person and want us very much to cut as much as we can. I mean, listen, I'd like to cut them all, but trust me, down there, that's a huge battle. So anyway, that's something that we need to work on down there. Education and school choice. Okay, I want to explain this vote to you all. And this is probably why I was the second conservative. No, I don't know how he ranks it. But I was probably the only one that voted against this school choice bill. It was very frustrating to me. I am very, I had been a part of this kind of consortium of sorts back in my activist days, and went down to Austin and was with a group of different people that wanted school choice. It was charter school people, homeschool people, public school people, religious schools, parents, and one of the things that came about was this called a taxpayer savings grant. And while it's not perfect, it seemed to be what was the best option. And basically it boils down to make it really simple, is 80% of the money follows the child while 20% stays at the public school. So the public school is actually not losing all of the money. It's still getting some money for a child that's not there. And like I said, that's kind of a simplistic version of it, but that's basically it. And that was what I thought, that was what Senator Campbell was always going to put forth. And, we're busy doing other things. And I guess at the last minute, all of a sudden they realized it didn't have the votes. And so we came up, all of a sudden the day that I went out to the floor, this SB 4 came about. It's a scholarship program linked to $100 million in scholarships for school-age children from franchise tax credits. Okay, so basically what it was is, if you're a business, you can get a reduction in your franchise tax if you participate in this scholarship program that will help the particular children go to a school of their choice. Well, here's the deal. I want to get rid of that blasted franchise tax. And we worked very, very hard. Thank you, yes. And we worked very, very hard, us freshmen, in trying to get that done this past session. And we couldn't. We did get a 25% reduction, but we want it gone completely. And I don't know, first of all, it's social engineering. I don't like the way government does this kind of thing. But, and second of all, all of a sudden we're going to tie school choice to a franchise tax for some. So basically, you're going to have families now that have their child be able to go to a school of their choice because of this franchise tax scholarship program. Well, you think they're going to want to get rid of that franchise tax next session or the session after that? What we do so much in government is we fight against, we'll all of a sudden next session, we'll have people down there that will be lobbying for the franchise tax because their child gets school choice out of it. I mean, we do this kind of thing all the time down there. Create these, groups that then support something because it benefits them only. So it's very aggravating. But anyway, that's why I voted this so-called school choice bill, which I don't think is a school choice bill at all. And I think I was the only one that did. All right. All right, budget and taxes. So we did $4 billion in total tax cuts. Like I mentioned, we had a 25% tax cut on business margins tax. We will work to get rid of that completely. With the passage of SJR 1 in November, the homestead tax exemption on school taxes will be raised from $15,000 to $25,000. So, yeah, $25,000. I will tell you, this is another frustration of mine. I don't like, around the edges kind of things. However, I do understand that there's, you can't do everything at once. I get that too. So what I want to see is eventually what I would rather look toward and work toward is getting rid of property taxes altogether and have a consumption tax. People are tired of not being able to own their home because of the taxes. And, you tell that to people down in Austin, other legislators, they don't get it. But anyway, I'll be working toward that, I promise. All right, here is the 2016-2017 state budget to kind of give you an idea. This is really, really, really good to show, particularly those on the left that don't understand why we don't put more money in education. And my dad was a public school principal and superintendent. My kids went to public school. I went to public school. It's part of what the state of Texas is to provide. I believe in it. But, education, so look at where our drivers are. Education is $78 billion, and HHS, Health and Human Services, is $77 billion. So those are the two huge drivers in our budget. And I will tell you, and I tell everybody, I don't know what the answer is. I'm not on that committee. I don't know enough about it yet, but I do know that if we don't get a handle on the HHS side of this, Texas is in a lot of trouble. Trust me. This is going to overtake our budget. That's without expanding for Obamacare, right? This is just, it's not good. So, again, I always preface that with a statement that I don't know what the answer is at this point, but I will tell you I will be, it's something that I'm committed to trying to figure out because we can't, this is unsustainable. Okay. Again, $41 billion was dedicated to K through 12 education spending. That is $4 billion more than the previous budget. 4.3 was allotted to TRS and teacher healthcare shortfalls. That was another thing that I campaigned on. We tend to, divert money down there and here, there, and we haven't shored up these funds that we have committed to people. And so we had a lot of shortfalls in that. We're not where we need to be, but we are working in that direction of shoring up these funds. Border security, obviously that was a huge issue down there this session. So we put $800 million from the general revenue fund in addition to regular operating expenses put into the budget for border security initiative. And to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what that is, it contains sustained Operation Strong Safety for 2 years, and that was done before I was down there. So we had Operation Strong Safety put into place before I think the session before I was there. So that just sustained it. That enables us to hire 250 new state troopers. It increases overtime pay, so all officers work a 50-hour work week, and this was with their blessings. We created a new Texas Ranger company focusing on the border, operate the Texas Transnational Intelligence Center, build a multi-use training facility in Hidalgo County, develop and reserve officer corps that can be called to service at any time. And again, this is another thing. This is not going to solve our issue. This is not going to solve our border issue. But, we feel very compelled to do something to help our state, the safety of the people in the state of Texas, and we felt the need that we needed to shore up as much we could down on the border. Kind of give you an idea of some particular bills. One of the ones that passed finally, Representative Capriglione has been working on this a couple of sessions. It's just kind of a fun thing to talk to you about, that state depository for Texas gold bullion. He had worked on it last session. I authored it in the Senate and co-authored it actually. And this allows, this will bring our gold from Texas. It's currently in New York. I don't know where we are on that. I don't know if that's, yeah. But anyway, our gold is Texas gold is in New York, and we're bringing it to Texas once this, we have this gold depository, and it also is going to provide, companies can now store their assets and investment in this gold depository. So that passed this session. It's kind of a neat bill. This is great. This is fantastic. This is the kind of thing we should always, always, always be doing down there. This was by Rep. Darby. It eliminates an annual $200 professional fee for doctors, lawyers, chiropractors, engineers, vets, accountants, real estate brokers, all these particular ones. And that fee was put in place several years back, maybe more than just several years back. I don't remember, but that's actually on top of their occupational licensing fee that was put in, and I think it was a shortfall in the budget, and those fees were put in. That has been taken away. And then my bill, a pilot is 1243. It's a pilot program for donation and redistribution of certain unused prescriptions. So I have a constituents in the district that came to me and said they have a cancer cancer center in Fort Worth, and they do, these medications, not just cancer-saving medications, but a lot of them these days are quite expensive. And by law, you have to dispose of this. After you've gotten them, you have to dispose of this medication if you no longer have to use it. And so these constituents of mine who have this cancer center came to me and said, he pulled out a bottle, when he testified, a bottle of pills that were $13,000. And there's different reasons why pills are sometimes no longer needed. They're still unopened, unused, but they're not needed. Unfortunately, sometimes the patient has passed away. Sometimes the medications change because they want to try something new. There's all sorts of different reasons. And people come to them all the time and say, their family member has passed away, and they want to say, can we give you this medicine? And he can't. He can't. And so we passed this bill, which passed to have it that it can be donated back to the doctor, and then like what he wants to do is be able to use it for like Medicaid patients who can't afford this medicine. Now, it passed. It's not actually my wording on this bill. This is how it gets kind of confusing sometimes, but it sat. My bill passed unanimously in the Senate, went over to the House and sat. And then a doctor on the House side said, okay, we'll pass it if we have this language in it, which is too onerous and a little frustrating. It's much more wordy bill than it needs to be. And so we're going to be working on next session to get it back down to to a much simpler bill. But that was fun. I am, a huge advocate of the free market, not government picking winners and losers in the marketplace. Thank you. But I did vote, just to kind of explain this one bill that Senator Frazier it dissolved the Emerging Technology Fund, which is, a fund that we give to certain startups, technology startups, but it just deposited the money into the Texas Enterprise Fund, and then a Texas University Research Initiative, which I'm very, anyway, I won't say what I think there, but anyway, so I voted against it because it wasn't, okay, yeah, you got rid of one, but you just put the money in another one. And so make sure when y'all are looking at these bills and, why your legislators at any level voted for or against something, make sure that you look at it, all of it, to make sure, because maybe you'd see me voting against this bill and think, well, she must like those funds. No, I don't like them at all. I want them all gone, so it didn't do what it needed to do. We can go on. Sorry, we're running out. What I want to do, looking ahead, basically, What we need to work on next session, something that, I think all of you want and something that I'm looking to do is to end sanctuary cities in Texas. We need to look at school choice options. Come and take it bill. I have a suspicion that might be coming back. Matt Krause proposed this, I think, a session before last, where the federal government can enact any firearm law or regulation it wants. But if that regulation is contrary to Texas public policy, then Texas will not use any of its time, personnel, or energy to enforce the measure. Which is, pretty awesome. So I have a feeling that'll be coming back. Zero-based budgeting, we've all been saying this for I don't know how long. Representative Krause, is authors it. I authored it. Many of us author it. Never goes anywhere. Something else I want to work on is civil asset forfeiture. I want to protect personal property rights in that regard, and then reform property taxes. And again, if you all during the right now is the time. If you all have issues that are important to you, now is the time to talk to your rep and your senator. Right now is the time, because one thing that I was very, very surprised by was how ready everybody was last session. I had no idea. I mean, they were done, ready to go with their bills, and they hit the ground running. And it's why, because this is the time that you're getting all your legislation authored. You're vetting it. You're talking to different parties to see how it affects everybody. So please don't wait until session to go down there and talk to them. Talk to them now, so that if something needs to be authored, it can be right now. And now we'll open it up to questions if you guys have some questions. Yes?
This past week on Facebook, I saw several different postings on this particular issue. Two said that Texas passed a law outlawing Sharia law forever.
Yes,
banning it.
I saw that too. It was like it had just happened.
Then,
Yeah,
there was like one other
not there.
posting said it hadn't happened. Yeah, so what's the answer? What's the truth?
I was going to look at that because I don't know what that was. Now, did we pass? It was talking about a bill that. Okay. Is that the one it was talking about? Okay.
That's the last thing on the calendar.
I don't think it passed.
Here's the deal. Let me explain too why it's very hard for me. Because this is why a lot of times I don't answer things on Facebook, because we have to go back. I mean, I see the bill about 75 different times, right? And you have these blinders on. Sometimes you hear it in committee. You hear it because somebody from the House is coming over and talking to you about it. And then your staff is looking at it, and then you're hearing it in the what? I'm sorry. Oh, so you're hearing it in you're in the hearing. You hear it all different times, and then at the end, so then you may pass it, then it comes back from the House in a different form, and so my apologies. It's very hard to. If you're following a particular piece of legislation, it's much easier for you to tell me, if it passed from the Senate, and for me to go back and have to remember. So anyway, that's kind of why it gets a little confusing for us. So anyway, so to answer your question, it did not, and I don't know why. I saw that too, and I was like, what? And really what was so confusing is because it said it just passed, like it just passed the other day, and I'm like, we're not down there. How did it pass? Yes, sir.
Sharia law should not even be considered.
Right. And it's a protection. It's a protection.
It shouldn't even be considered because there should not be a practicing Muslim living in America. The immigration law says any religion, creed, whatever, any organization that is against what the United States stands for and its laws is illegal and it cannot reside in this country. It says it flat out in all 5 versions of it. So why should we even have to discuss it?
Next question?
I don't get an answer.
No. Yes, sir. You can just yell.
The 41 billion for K through 12. Has anybody run the numbers to tell us exactly how much that is for each child in just the state of Texas?
About 10,000? About 10,000. I was told by my district director.
And how much
my frustration, right? That's what I always say. And it's unfortunate, I get so frustrated because we obviously don't message it well, and we obviously don't say it well. What I want us to concentrate on is, we're not against teachers, we're not against students, we're not even against public school. What I am against is them using the tax dollars unwisely. I mean, it just makes sense, right? We need to focus it on the classroom, the teachers, the students, but listen, I am the more I see the stuff that's, it's all, I mean, here's the deal. In government, there's a lot of things that sound good. You can do a lot of things, but should you? I mean, this is tax dollars. Businesses can experiment. Businesses can do a bunch of different kind of things that they want because they're getting their money via, exchange of money for goods and services, right? Tax dollars are being taken from you. So we need to stick with what we need to do something and do it well. And so I'd like to see, I'm kind of a good old-fashioned reading, writing, and arithmetic kind of person. I think sometimes we get a little too, we can do a lot of things, but should we, right? So anyway, I'd like to see that money focused very much in the classroom. I don't know if there's something that shows that, where that money goes. I don't know, really. Yes, sir?
Governor Abbott just came out in favor of convention of the states to deal with term limits and some other things. What is your view on it, and are you for or against it?
Right. So we've met with, and trust me, we have met with, I don't know, I've probably had at least 15 meetings with Convention of States, different people of conventions of states, either myself or my staff, and everything. And let me tell you, when there is an issue that good conservatives disagree on, I pause. That's when not when it's something that Republicans disagree on. When conservatives disagree, that's where I pause. And we've got great organizations that are totally against it. We've got great organizations that are for it. So I've gone into this very, very cautiously. Here's the other thing. The way you can't just be for conventions of states or not. I mean, it's like a bill. You might be for school choice, but I voted against this bill because I didn't like it, the actual wording. So to me, I can't say whether I've got to see what we're looking at. And I have not read Governor Abbott's. I did hear the other day that some people that had read it was very, very disturbed over, some judicial part of it. Here's the other thing. We have got some people that are coming to our office quite frequently that are from the left that want this convention of states they say for campaign finance reform. Frankly, all the laws that we put into place for campaign finance reform is exactly what's got us in the mess that we're in. So it's very aggravating. But that concerns me as well, right? So when you've got, I don't know. And I say this every time. Toward the end of the session, I was more for it because I love Representative Krause. He's a constitutional attorney. I kind of watch him for those kinds of things, and he was on board for it. But this was a particular wording, and so I was on board for that. But I say this all the time. I know that sounds like I'm trying not to answer the question, but that's really the answer. I can't say yes or no because I've got to see the wording, and I'm worried about. I don't know. Yes. Okay. I will tell you, I get this. What's the difference between lobbying and bribing? I will tell you, it's kind of interesting. I don't mind, believe it or not. There's a lot of, and they're lobbyists, and they come in and they help you to understand their industry. It's the truth of it. They'll help you to understand how regulations or taxes, or kind of helps you understand how it works. Because I don't want to know everything. I don't want to know everything about every business out there, so they kind of help you to do that. So they're not evil, inherently evil. The ones that are, however, and there are those, very much want protectionism. A lot of the lobbies come in and they want regulation. regulations. For instance, a great example is the taxi versus Uber. Perfect example, perfect example. So taxi lobbyists come in there and tell me, we've got these regulations, it's just fair, you know? And I'm like, I can see right through it. That's all they want to do. They just want to be able, because they can live under those regulations, but they know Uber cannot, right? They want to put them out of business. So a lot of businesses do that. They want protectionism. A lot of businesses want these funds, you know. Here's the other deal. They pretty much know, lobbyists too are smart. They know where you stand on all the issues. I really didn't get bugged by lobbyists. I don't, because they know where you sit. So it's really not that hard if you just let people know. I mean, I'd see some of the other legislators like, oh my God, have you gotten calls from, oh, they're driving me nuts. I'm like, no. Because they knew they weren't going to, you know, they knew, so they don't even come.
So Connie, we have time for 3 more quick questions, and I think I've already got the 3 people
Okay.
identified. I'm sorry, but we've actually got to wrap it up.
Absolutely.
But anyway, if anyone else has any questions, you'll have a little bit of time afterwards, but then we got to clear out here. So we're going to start question number 1.
So we had a hotly contested bond election for school construction and things like that. And during that, the school district, which is not allowed to advocate for the bond, did so, although they did it legally. They would target voters who were over 65 and
Yep.
tell them,
Yep.
you can vote for this and it won't increase your taxes. So what is your opinion on having a public entity advocate for something that's going to cause a tax increase and do so by targeting a group that's not going to be affected by that?
Yeah, that's a frustration, isn't it? Yeah, well, I'm totally against it. Goodness, totally against it. We try to, we're trying to do everything we can down there to kind of figure out how to deal with that kind of stuff. Not necessarily the 65 and older, even though that's something we need to deal with. Is like transparency, on a ballots, right? We tried, I think it was the session before last, where you get how much you're actually in debt currently and how much it's going to be with the bond because, it's just, $1 per month or whatever they say, kind of thing. And we want it on the ballot, the language on the ballot. And there's people down there that represent school districts, lobbyists that are, fighting it tooth and nail. And nothing happened with that one. So we're working on those kinds of things. Let me tell you really quickly, if I may, one of the things that I always tell people, because cities are getting pretty upset with us down in Austin because it's like, we can do what we want. You need to leave us alone. Well, here's the deal. Particularly like on the oil, the fracking thing, the Denton fracking thing. Let me explain that to you all. First and foremost, the states were here first. The states give the federal government its power. The states do, right? And the cities are political subdivisions of the state. So when a city is infringing on rights, the state has every right to say, no, you can't do that. And as far as the fracking was concerned, that was a private property rights issue. You can't just decide how somebody can or cannot use their property in terms of selling the, for the profit aspect of it. So I just, it's so interesting because particularly the left will say, oh, you just got them in your back pocket. I don't talk to anybody down there. Nobody. I don't talk to anybody. It's always about, the principles of free market, personal property rights, those kinds of things. That's what I base my vote on. So, but I just want you all to, when you start to hear the grumbling from cities, we absolutely, when your rights are being infringed on, government's first obligation, what I am there to do is to protect your rights, not infringe on them, but to protect them. And so whatever level of government is infringing on them, I will be there to protect them for you.
Question number 2.
Yes, sir.
There has been a push on, particularly in Europe, to boycott Israel and products from Israel. There has been a move on in the United States for individual state legislatures to approve statutes that prohibit the boycotting of Israel and products from Israel. As a general proposition, would you support a statute that prohibits the boycotting of Israel and products from Israel?
Okay. You're asking me if I would state it again. Which where you say you want me to
There
support?
there is a push on, particularly in Europe.
Right. But what are you wanting, what are you asking if I would support?
Would you support a statute that prohibits the boycotting of Israel and products from Israel?
Well, I'm not gonna, I mean, if we're talking about, I'm not gonna prohibit anybody from doing anything that they want.
This would relate to government action.
Oh,
as
okay.
it-
That's
as
a different
it relates
story.
to investing government funds, investing in organizations that overtly and deliberately boycott Israel and the products from Israel.
Yeah, I'd have to think, these are kind of things you have to, I need to think through that. I need to sit and talk to people about that. What are the ramifications and, something like that. I can't answer that. Oh, I get all that. But but instituting law is serious stuff, and I'm not gonna just knee-jerk a reaction, either, an answer.
Okay.
I mean, there's repercussions,
Okay, one last question.
yes, sir.
I share your concern about the Health and Human Services dollar amount that the state is being required to spend. My understanding is a lot of that is going to be mandates from DC that says,
Right.
here's what you will spend.
Absolutely.
And that's the 800-pound gorilla on
That's
the
right.
state's budget right now.
That's right.
If you thought that number was big now, wait 4, 5, 6 years. That number
Yeah.
will be
That's right.
astronomical.
That's right.
What happens when the state says, and not only Texas, but all the other states say, no, we're not gonna pay it? Do you just not pay it? Is there a way to fix that without
One of the
fixing
things that
Washington?
we want so badly is a block grant, right? Where, we can get this money back to us and us spend it the way we want to spend it, right? The rumbling down there I'm hearing when I was talking to different legislators is they're even, even a block grant, they're starting to be able to, I don't get it, I don't understand why, but that's not even as effective as it used to be either. They still in some ways can dictate things. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. The federal government is, we all know, I'm preaching to the choir. We are, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I will leave you with one thought. I was just thinking about this. Folks, I'm one of you. Many of us are. And let's work together. I worry about the anger in the country. Trust me, that's why I'm running. That's why I ran, I'm angry too. But if we start biting the hand that, if we just keep working, those of us us do guys that are in, that we're just sitting where you are one day, we are really trying to do what's right. And that's not just at this level, it's at the, congressional, there are some. And I get worried, I get a little worried right now hearing that, everybody needs to go, or, throw them all out, or everything, there are some people, that are trying to do the right thing. And I just hope that we don't forget that. Because we are trying to do what's right down there. And I hope that those of us that are in there right now, we can get more of us. That's what I think the answer is. Not necessarily to blow it all up and start over, because I think we're on the right path. We just need to get more of us in there. So I would encourage you to think that way, I hope. Thank you.
I'm going to ask one very simple question here. Connie, how important is block walking for conservative races?
Absolutely it is. It's
For
absolutely
conservative candidates?
right. It is so, because again, like I said at the beginning, people don't even know our names. People don't know our names. And as much as we get out there, and as much as we do, there's going to be all these houses that have, because we're busy. Everybody's busy living their lives. You should be. That's what you're supposed to be doing, is living your lives. Government shouldn't be this, it's so aggravating, right? But if you don't get out and knock on doors and let them know about a conservative candidate, the one that's always been there is going to get that, that vote. So I can't stress it enough. Knocking on doors, and it is very simple. It really is. It's just not gonna, you're going to primary voters' doors. So these are people that are open to you. And occasionally there's one in there that might have gotten stuck in there for some strange reason. But, so they're very open. So, you're just telling them, you're giving them a push card. This is so-and-so. He's a great conservative. He's worried about the country. He's, whatever. And just say, I hope that he or she can get your support on election day. Done. And so it is very important. It is very easy. And I hope you'll consider doing it.
All right, let's hear it for Konni Burton, Texas and Plus.